everyone. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College talking to you one more time about what to look for in the night sky, this time for the week of June 14th, 2021. But really, as we often do around here, we're talking about something you can follow and should follow for much of the rest of the summer. We're going to look at Venus today. So we're turning our attention to Venus. Perhaps you've noticed Venus in the evening sky. You've had a chance to get out and look west just after sunset or around sunset, and the brightest object you see out there after you lose the sun is Venus. And so Venus is starting to climb into the evening sky right now, well placed for us to observe. And so we're going to draw a little bit about what's going on here. So we're picking, it's really sort of a random choice, but we're going to say if the Earth's orbiting this direction, Venus will orbit that same direction. We just want to make sure everything's going the same direction. Earth has what we call prograde rotation. Venus does not, interestingly enough, but we won't talk about that here right now. So Earth has prograde rotation, meaning that it's rotating in the same direction that it's orbiting. Physicists would talk about angular momentum vectors, and you put your fingers in the direction of the rotation. Your thumb points in the direction of the angular momentum. Put your fingers in the direction of the orbital motion. Thumb points in the same direction. Prograde means they're the same. So we're rotating and orbiting in the same direction. What that means, as Venus, so let's actually look at the Earth right here and say, if it's daytime on this side of the Earth, if the sun is there, nighttime over here. If the Earth's rotating this way, then sunrise is right there and sunset is right there. Now, if we're seeing Venus at sunset, we're not seeing Venus over here. We're seeing Venus over here. And since it's just appearing and not disappearing, when it's disappearing into the sun at sunset, it would be out front over here, but it's just appearing at sunset, so it's appearing from behind the sun over here, which means it must be almost full. We're seeing the fully illuminated. This side of Venus is illuminated by the sun. This side is not. This side of Venus is illuminated by the sun. This side is not. We see, roughly speaking, that half of it. So we see about a half illuminated Venus. Venus goes through phases just like the moon does. So you get around front here, and Venus is new because this is the side that's illuminated. And this side is not. We can't see the illuminated side, so we don't see Venus. So Venus will get a thinner and thinner crescent as we get around here. This was evidence that Galileo, you'll often hear people say that Galileo's observed the phases of Venus and used that as evidence that Venus was orbiting the sun and not the Earth. But obviously the moon orbits the Earth and it goes through a full set of phases. What's key about the phases of Venus is when it's new, it's much closer to us. So when it's a really thin crescent over on this side of the sun, it looks big. The angular size in a telescope or in binoculars is big. And when it's close to full over here, it's much further away from us because of this big orbit around the sun. And so it looks small. And in fact, you could make a specific mathematical prediction of the size phase relationship. And it agreed really well with what the Keplerian model, the sun-centered model of the solar system, suggested it should be. So this is the phases and size relationship, or what Galileo used to suggest that the sun-centered model was better than the earth-centered model. Not right necessarily, but better. And you just keep adding evidence and keep making it better and better and better. We don't prove it right. We just say this is a much more solid model than any other model. So anyway, it tells us that right now, if we look at Venus, because it's popping out into the evening sky, it should be close to full, and it is. And it should be getting less full, and it is. Now, it's not going to get as much less full as we might think, because we're running away from it, okay? So this is a complex dance, much more complex than what we're drawing right here as we try to run away from Venus. But nonetheless, Venus is full and getting less full all the time. If you have a pair of binoculars, you have a small telescope, try to check that out and see if you can see the phase of Venus. It's so close to full right now, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time seeing it. But it's going to get something closer to 3/4 full over the next few weeks. So if you track it over the next few weeks, see if you can see that phase getting to be less and less and less as we all move around here. One of the best educational moments of my career, when I worked in the University of California, when I was in California, I worked at the American Indian Public Charter School in Oakland, great place, and we did outreach for the Center for Particle Astrophysics, so we did education, and I had the fantastic opportunity to go up to a reservation on Point Arena Reservation in Northern California, right on the coast there, and at a time when Comet Hyakutake was in the sky. So you you go look when that was up, that dates me just a little bit. So Hyakutake was big, beautiful, long gas tail, ion tail in the sky. And we went up and we looked at that at Point Arena being right on the coast right there. This fog, I don't know, 300 days out of the year. And for some reason, it was just beautifully clear that night. It was wonderful. And we all stood and we looked at the comet, and we did a little show. We did a little discussion, a little presentation on dark matter, because the Center for Particle Astrophysics was all about dark matter. So we talked about dark matter and searches for dark matter. And then we went out, we looked at the sky, and we had the telescope there that we carried along. And we looked at Hyakutake, which we didn't use a telescope for because it was way too big. But for Venus was up, and we looked at Venus. And I remember one more senior gentleman looking through the telescope and looking up at me and looking at the telescope again and saying, "It looks like the moon." And so you hear people talk all the time about educational moments, and that was a moment where we could connect. Yes, it does look like the moon. It's a very, very interesting thing about it going through phases. And it's one memory that, 35 years later, or however long that's been, I still, 25 years later, I still remember very, very, very vividly what a wonderful night that was. It ended up in singing and dancing. I was bestowed a Pomo Miwok name that meant Big Eye, to translate it to English as Big Eye, to talk about my telescope. And one of my great regrets is I had a hard time understanding that name because of my clunky ear, and it was midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, and I was very tired. And I have a hard time pulling back up what my Pomo Miwok name is. But nonetheless, that's a story for another time. Apparently it's a story for this time because you just heard it. Anyway, Venus is climbing into the night sky. It's over here. It's getting less full. Check it out. Watch it as you look after. As it's getting dark, it's going to be the brightest thing you see out there. Right now, this week, if we're talking about June 14th to the 21st, let's say, Mars is about 1.5 fists above Venus. So check out Mars as well. Get over here, stick your fists out there, say 1 to 2 fist widths at arm's length. You'll find Mars above Venus. And between the two are Castor and Pollux, the bright stars of Gemini over here. So you'll see the stars of Gemini, Mars just above the stars of Gemini, and Venus just below the stars of Gemini. Venus is racing up to catch Mars. So watch that over the next month. It's going to be great. In fact, the second full week of July, mark it on your calendars right now, the second full week of July, Venus is going to catch Mars, and they're still going to be pretty near Gemini, not as close as maybe they are right here, but they're going to be pretty near Gemini, and that's going to be quite a pairing when Venus catches Mars. So be ready. We'll circle back to that in the second week of July. Get out there now. Start observing Venus. Think about its phases. Think about Galileo and sort of how long time is and how short time is. When you think about the connectedness of all of us that have ever been and all of us everywhere. So anyway, this is great observing. Get out there and check these things out. Have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you about something else to observe next week. Thank you.